Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 65, another tech talk. I am your host, Paco LeBron. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, or break fix, or anything in between. Let me introduce my co-host today. We have Nancy Sabino of SabinoCompTech. Nancy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
You know, like I always like to say, better than good, better than most, or like another colleague here, better than I deserve. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to have you here. I think this has kind of been a long time in the making. We were just kind of talking about that previously in the show that, we've just been in so many circles. We've interacted on the socials, but this is actually the first time we're face to face, technically, very in conversation. So I'm very looking forward to this to kind of know more about your story, get into more of the details of how you kind of operate your business, and just, talk tech as much as possible that we can get engaged for the audience. So before we go into into your story, let me just go to our call to action. TechCon Unplugged 2021, where September 17th to the 19th, over at the Aloft Hotel Chicago O'Hare in Chicago/Rosemont, Illinois. Learn from amazing panels to help maintain and improve your business. Meet vendors to find products and services that can save you time and money, and rub elbows with peers in the community because we can't really press the flesh, although Illinois is reopening here next Friday. We've been talking about this for quite some time over the last several months. We were kind of unsure how it was going to shape up. We were confident, but the Illinois is fully opening up as of June 11th. The city, Chicago, is going to be fully open in July 4th. So we're expecting to have a full show. So, we don't have to worry about the restrictions of the list that we had before, as we were mentioning. But the most important piece is, as I've been promising for several weeks, the agenda is now live. The agenda is now live with all our partners, along with a lot of the great panels and discussions that we're going to be talking about during that 2.5-day weekend. So it's going to be a great time. We have a Friday night social where we'll be at the hotel so we can meet and mingle with the vendors. We have vendors such as Huntress, ThreatLocker, Keeper Security, etc. And we have a few ones that haven't been posted on the show, but we appreciate Acronis jumping on as well recently and joining us that weekend. So we will also have those, again, 2 days of full content, but then the Saturday night social, if you haven't heard the episode last week or the week before, we kind of went and did a survey out to the community, and we understood that although we had a great time at Dave & Buster's in 2019 for our first show in Grand Rapids, we lost a lot of that communication because we were able to have a lot of fun, but not that hallway conversation. So this year we did change the Saturday night venue. We will be at the Five Roses Pub. And that's going to be a great experience because we'll not only have the entertainment of the business district there, should anyone want to kind of stay in the area, but also they're going to close the restaurant down for us so that we can have that entire space for us to commingle, also have some great entertainment and have some fun along the way. So if you are interested, and I saw that a lot of those that were kind of on the fence has started buying tickets this week, we appreciate it. Go to techconunplugged.com. Tickets are only $199, and essentially we got you for food and the accommodations that are there. Head to the website for a special discount for the hotel stay, and we look forward to seeing you there. Everyone who attended 2019 thought it was a blast, and we hope to see you all again there. So again, TechCon Unplugged.
What are the dates?
September 17th to the 19th.
There you go.
So, all right. So why don't we go ahead and Nancy, why don't we just go into kind of what's the name of your MSP, where are you located, and kind of just go into a brief, intro of how you started the firm.
Awesome. You want all my details, huh? Nancy Sabino. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SabinoCompTech. We're outside of Houston, Texas, in a small town, small-ish, not anymore, I guess, which is Katy, Texas. And yeah, so how we started? We started when we were 22 years old, after being at another local shop, and we decided we could probably do things a lot better, right? And in 2015, we actually shut down the first shop that we had, which was break fix and residential work. And then we decided to kind of focus, and that's how we started our MSP in 2016. And ever since then, it's been a wild ride.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's about 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Awesome. And then as far as, you know, how did you kind of get into, it sounds like you came from a previous shop and went into kind of going on your own. Did you start off with a book of clients that you had previously? Did you kind of just go all in and started hitting the ground running to try and find clients for your business? How did that kind of shape up in the beginning stages of SabinoCompTech?
Ooh, okay. So, funny story. We did have a book of clients that were break fix from that break fix company. It was about 300. And when we pitched the MSP, it got down to 10. So we started with 10. It was about 10 clients. And what we decided to do was not we didn't want to do the silver, gold, platinum type of deal. We went in with a single platform, the all you can eat model, essentially speaking. And then it was 10 people that saw the value in it. And that was so discouraging at the beginning, but we decided we're going to just try it out. We did a lot of work into our branding and our marketing and into our sales. And so then that kind of kicked everything off. And so we hit the ground running. The first 2 to 3 years had been working on our processes, streamlining things, and then also kind of identifying that perfect client and going and looking for those.
Very cool. Now, would you say, obviously from then starting from 300 to 10 being a big drastic jump on that, what motivated you to kind of go from break fix to the MSP model, the all you can eat? Because I remember, which is funny, I remember your post, the blog post that you had at that time where you said goodbye residential. And it was a big blog post that you had at the time kind of explaining why that decision occurred. One, what motivated you to kind of go that direction? And two, how were you able to, I don't know if stomach is the right word, but to see that drastic shift in from 300 to 10 and having the faith that, it will just grow from there?
So at the time I had been accepted into a Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program. And so going through that program, it kind of it helped me just not perfect because there's no perfect, but it kind of cleared up the vision that I had for our company and for our life. And so once that became clear, then it was kind of like, well, what do we need to do in order to make that happen? And then from there, it was out of these 300, which ones are our favorite clients? Which ones do we have something in common with? And so we started looking at that and realizing, well, we can provide a service that actually would be beneficial all around for this type of client. And that's what kind of motivated us to do that. But essentially it started off with the feeling that one, we had the residential shop and I enjoyed it very much so. And I did not want to close it down because I didn't want to feel like I was failing. And so that was where Goldman Sachs came in and in clarifying the vision. And then also talking about exit strategies, it was there's all sorts of exit strategies. This doesn't have to be failure. Right. If anything, it's something else. It's starting something new. And so that's kind of what motivated it and kind of led us down this path.
Very cool. Yeah, I highly encourage those that, if you have the opportunity to apply for the Goldman Sachs 10K small business. I've heard that is a game changer for a lot of people. It is a commitment to once you're accepted in the program, but I have heard the same story you've mentioned that where, once you go through it, light bulbs go off and it just shifts. And those type of programs are always great. And yeah, kind of like what you said, like we're kind of always evolving, right, in the tech space and trying to figure out what's the best way to go around. Where like for us, we started off with a computer repair shop, break fix, repair. Then we shifted to a retainers, which is kind of break fix, and then the monthly income. And then now we're starting to convert all our clients over to the monthly all you can eat model. Unfortunately, we do have those three plans because in our head, we were thinking, all right, this is how we can get it to sell. But kind of like what you're mentioning, what we're finding out is, although we have these quote 3 plans available, conversating with the customer or potential prospect identifies which one we think they would be best for. And that's kind of how we've been adjusting lately. And we found a lot of great success. But really for us, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because a lot of people think, and you said it in a like, unfortunately, we still have that, and it's not always bad. A lot of the times, what I've seen is that it can actually help clients move down that path, especially depending on where they're at in business. So if you have a startup company, you may want to start them off at the silver package, because that's what's going to help them at that time to get to that next level. And then once they're at that next level, they can take a step up with you. So it's not a bad thing. And I think it's just depending on who you're servicing and what kind of clients that you have or want. And so it can be a good thing. So I wanted to point that out.
No. And I think that's a great thing to highlight, is that, a lot of us, and we've all been there, we've all started to the point where, like you and I, we've been doing this for quite a bit. And we always try to tell those that are getting into the business, don't charge cheap, don't go, this route. But sometimes we have to make those mistakes, right? And I think there's a lot of times where and you said it great, where, I did say, unfortunately, because that was kind of what we're starting, but it is a progression in the evolving of what we're doing for our business. And, for those that they may find it easier to sell the 3 plans and kind of go that route, because it takes away from them having to push other bigger plans and doing only a one-shot type situation. I had a sales mentor tell me, hey, you always want to do things in 3s, right? Because it's like they're always going to choose the middle. And that's kind of how that theory came about way back when. So there's always different ways to do what in this industry that we do, and not everyone is perfect. It just has to speak to you. And that's a big thing, is that I forgot what episode we had, but someone mentioned, like, you always want to run your business that's comfortable for you. If you're finding success in it, if you are making good money from it, don't have someone tell you you need to grow if you're comfortable where you're at. If someone is telling you you're doing it the wrong way, they just need to understand that you're doing it a different way. So that's very big. And I appreciate you pointing that out, because there are big things to kind of focus on that. But kind of steering the ship a little bit too, as you kind of started growing and exploring your plans, did you start to focus on a type of niche of client or industry, or did you focus more on a demographic and size and kind of grew from that?
So that's the one thing that we did from the very beginning. And the reason why we went with the single platform to start off with was because we realized that the clients, our favorite clients, and they were all our favorites, but these specifically were, it just fit better all around. And so they had commonalities, and the commonalities for each of them was compliance. And so we started off with just, the private healthcare and accounting, and what was the other one? I think I can't think of it now, but it was one other. Legal. Duh. Brain fart there. Anyway, so it was those 3 at the very beginning. And then we realized that really our niche was compliance. And so now there's manufacturing, because they have to deal with CMMC. And so there's other industries that we service now, but it's all under the same umbrella of compliance. But that's how we started off from the very beginning. Our service offering was designed with that in mind. And then our service delivery was designed with that in mind as well. So our employees had to have training that had to do with the compliance that they were going to be dealing with, and so on and so forth.
And that's very interesting that you mentioned that, right? Because I think a lot of MSPs are servicing clients, but they may not have established a baseline, right? Or they have not been able to figure out, or not figure out, I should say, but trying to get to the point where what's something they can base their solutions on to help when not only just supporting their clients, but also explaining it to prospective clients as well. So for us, we always highlight the NIST cybersecurity framework. That's what we base our things in. That's what we try to do as a general for all of our clients. And now with insurance carriers more and more asking, hey, what framework are you following? Things like that. It's starting to catch a lot of MSPs off guard if they haven't really been in tune with what's going on in the industry. And then second, a lot of security assessments are happening for our clients against them, and then they're asking us for advice on how to handle that as well. So that's very kind of something to take into play. But obviously with that motivation and training, you have to have the right tools, right? And try to really get to it. So let's kind of dive more into kind of your tech stack, if you're okay with that, and kind of walk us through what are you using for your RMM, what are you using for your AV, and what's kind of keeping everything together in your PSA to help kind of drive your business. Because I think even before the show, we were talking about how, and even now the process and really automation has really helped make the business very efficient.
Oh, yes. I was incredibly lucky to have my husband, who was the driving force behind the wanting to make sure that the technology part of it that we were using was all in a standardized way. And then I also am incredibly lucky that he just happens to enjoy the automation aspect of it. And so that's something that he focused on heavily. And so for me, when we set out to look for the PSA and the RMM, I wanted something where I could basically that single pane of glass. I hate saying it, but it's true. And I wanted something that was easy for me to be able to get the data that I wanted out of it. And so we ended up going with Kaseya, just because ConnectWise was it looked like it was stuck in the 1980s, and that was one decision that I made because of aesthetics, for sure. And I will state it. I don't know how they are now, but then it was, and so I was like, no, I can't have something that looks like I was just born there. So no. So we went with Kaseya. We went with their PSA. We went there with their RMM. And so basically all of our tools are through Kaseya, because we wanted to, again, make it easy and simple. And we utilized all of those. And then from there, because of the fact that we went with all of their products, of course, they make it easier for us to be able to automate a lot of these things into our RMM tool. And so we worked on things like the AV and automating that into our processes. And so all of that was we had thought about it in the sense of just standardize.
Sure.
And then, of course, the automation aspect of it allows us to do a lot more because of it. So
Gotcha.
It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's like you said, I think the term that a lot of the industry channel vendors use is the single pane of glass, right? And I always liked, and I think Jeff coined this on one of the shows before, is in the search for the single pane of glass, it's always a single pane in the. So it's one of those where like everyone is chasing that ever elusive dashboard. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And kind of like what you said, it's very important to make sure you can get everything kind of standardized and automated in your PSA and RMM, because I think that's really the crux of like where everything should stand. I know that's what we based our stuff on, us being a Synchro shop, we have really tried to gain and update everything instead of that system, but also the abilities that it has externally with scripting and such has allowed us to kind of capture all that data into the system as much as possible.
I have to say, I love Synchro. So we were a repair shop when we had the break fix business, and we were with them when they were starting the process of creating Synchro. And I was so sad when we had to leave them. But at the time, we were looking for that automation
Yeah.
and they weren't there yet. So but I love those guys.
Agree. I agree with you. I mean, I think, for us, we exactly in your boat. We were a repair shopper and Ninja RMM clients. We were very happy with that. Synchro came out with their PSA and RMM tool. We jumped on that when it first joined. It just did not at the time have what we were kind of using with the two systems in 2017. So we ended up going back for the year of 2017. It was toward the end of 2018 that they literally, I mean, it was just night and day compared to when we tried them from the fall of 2017 when they announced it to the fall of 2018. And it's just kind of gotten better since then. I think right now, currently, they just are growing at such a big pace that they're trying to make sure that the system and the tools are going to be as automated and modern for everyone that's using it. And they're coming out with a lot of great features, especially with my biggest thing was the Mac agent, because I have one client that has a fleet of Macs, and, they understood the need, they redid it. And now they have this new beta version of the Mac agent, and it's working great. So it just, again, it goes back to, like you said, that, all platforms may not be perfect when you try them out in a certain time. And as you go along with them, they may improve. Like you had mentioned where you had tried out Kaseya. I remember, several years ago, Kaseya really didn't, or maybe closer to 7 to 8 years ago, that Kaseya hadn't really invested in the product. And that's when they first started doing it. They started having their acquisitions, they started integrating their solutions. And now it's a completely different product compared to back then that it was as well. So it's interesting to just say, driving it home, is if you've tried a product out and it's been 5 to 10 years that you've touched it, you can't have the same opinion of that product from what it was back then, right? So that's the only thing that I will drive home for, at least for that. I did want to get
constantly evaluating it. So that's one thing we did probably every 2 years, was evaluate the products that we were using. So is there something better out there now? I mean, come on, we're in the technology space, so it continually evolves. And so we have to continuously evolve with it as well. So
100%. I agree. I 100% agree. Now, I guess let me get your opinion on, since you have the business been in fruition for the past 5 years, and you have the AV stack. Obviously, there's this term around next gen AV, right? And what is your opinion on next gen AV? Is it exactly what is being advertised? Is it just great marketing for what a lot of the solutions are using? Have you switched AVs in the past several years, or have you kind of bunkered down because of the value that it's bringing for your clients right now?
Well, once we selected our we're not at that 2-year mark yet. So we really have not started to take a look at all of those pieces. We have had solutions for that stuff, maybe not with the same vendor and things like that, but those are, I mean, we're pretty happy with where we're at currently, and I think that's serving us well at the moment. Is that going to change next year? Probably. And that's one thing to know for sure. I mean, yes, it will probably change, especially as the threats change.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Staring again. Why don't we go into what are your favorite hardware vendors? What is your MSP kind of anchored down on as far as brand of like OEM, laptops, desktops, etc.? Are you a Dell shop, Lenovo, HP, or another brand? What do you try to standardize in and you're providing to your clients?
So first on the networking side, we're Cisco-based company all the way. So all Cisco products, and then after that, the servers and all that. As we've been HP for the longest time. And as of late, we've kind of been steering into the Dell arena. And so that's kind of where we're at. And sorry, HP.
I mean, I think So it's funny because we're kind of running into the same problem. We're a huge Lenovo shop. And unfortunately, and I've been very vocal about this to Lenovo, and we're trying to work through it. We've been partners with them for close to 10, 11 years, 2 years before we formally incorporated. We've incorporated in 2013. And so we've been a big Lenovo shop, and we've always had great experience with them. But the last 6 months, and I don't know if it's because of, the pandemic and some of the other things and the shortages, but the support just was not there. And it was more of coordination than it was of delivery. Right. I think that was the biggest piece that we were running into. And like you, we've actually started steering toward Dell, believe it or not. And whether it's the Dell Expert Network or, for a lot of our size of clients, we've been doing Dell refurbs, going to DellRefurbish.com, and for some of the smaller clients, get the 1-year warranty, and then having the OEMs that we have partners that will help repair those systems as well, and provide a quasi of our own warranty. And that's kind of what we've been steering on, because, for us, it's whatever's easier for the clients. And I can't tell you on the last 6 months of how much problems we've had, not only with hardware, but really a big piece of the system that's going on for just the coordination. That was a big piece for us that we were running into.
Yeah, and it was the same reasons for us. The reason why we worked with HP for so long was because of the warranty and the service that went behind it. And then that kind of started to fall off a little bit. And that's when we realized, no, we need to find something else. And at the time, Dell wasn't, they hadn't upped their game. And so when we started to make that switch, we realized, okay, not only are they offering longer warranties nowadays, but they're also offering better warranties. And when you do work with them for the warranties or whatever, it is much more cohesive. And that's something that for us was a value, because then we don't have to use our techs in order to fix warranty problems. And so it freed us up as well. So it definitely worked out much better.
Exactly. I mean, it selling the warranties was huge for us, because especially back then when it was just myself before this past 2 years ago. And then now, just like you said, it's just, for a motherboard replacement and things like that, like, let's get the ones that are trained. They have the OEM, they got the parts, they'll figure it out, that sort of stuff. So definitely, for sure. What distributors are you currently using right now? Or would you say that you're one distributor that you usually send a lot of your business to? Do you have multiple? Who's kind of your go-to when ordering a lot of the, HP, Dell, or any of your gear that you're having for your business?
Man, I've been doing a lot of switching. I just realized that. Okay, so for the longest time, we were using Ingram.
Okay.
And just recently, we switched over to Synex, which is now together with Tech Data as well. So that's been my go-to now. And for the cloud, we've always been with Pax 8 since they started. And so I moved everything from the Ingram cloud over to the Pax 8 cloud, and I was happy as a clam, and I haven't moved since.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're a huge Synex shop. We have a relationship with Tech Data too, for some of the Dell stuff. But and as they're merging, it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of shapes up, because I think there's two sides of the camp, right? A lot of people love the efficiency and the process that works in Tech Data. Then there's a lot of the people that like the customer service and the way that Synex works. And then there's negatives on both sides, right? That some people just can't stand one or the other. So it's going to definitely be interesting on how they merge. My understanding is just it's going to be beneficial and better for everyone, just because now they'll be expanded into more markets, have available card channels. Like you can't buy Dell to Synex, but with that merger, it probably will. So it's going to be interesting on how that kind of shapes up for that hardware vendor. And then for software, a lot of the cloud stuff, we're using Pax 8 as well. So that's definitely been helpful for us, especially. But we didn't join on the bandwagon when they first came out, but they were very persistent to get our business. And it wasn't until they fully integrated to our PSA that we really took a hard look at them. We saw how they were able to integrate everything to it, and it just worked out, right? So it definitely worked out really well. One question that came in from Kyle over at Pro Tech Guy was, he mentioned that he really loved your website setup.
Thank you.
And he was curious if you were doing this in-house or were you doing it with a vendor?
I am doing that in-house.
Okay.
That was all me.
Okay.
I could I'm like, I can show you the little stick figures that I drew on a piece of paper when I originally thought of the idea.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, and and he kind of also mentioned too where same thing with kind of the experience we're having with some of the vendors. It's really so much of we haven't made any changes, but it's really that the making this happen is what is a time suck for us. So Lenovo, if you're listening, and HP, step up your game.
Step up your game.
um and then he had another question. I don't know the answer to this, so I'll leave this to the audience. He's asking about the brand of laptop that was kind of a white label laptop and desktop with a 3-year warranty. Don't know that brand specifically, but I'm not sure. Nancy, would you happen to maybe know what he may be referring to?
I feel like I might know it, but
Okay.
it's somewhere in there, and I'd have to pull it out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't recall. Kyle, but yeah, post that in the group and we'll see. Maybe we get you an answer for that as well. As far as your favorite tools, when in troubleshooting and things like that, are there any things that you're using like, the community likes to use the Malwarebytes tool bench kit for some things. Obviously, there's a lot of automation that you can do in your PSA. Is there any third-party tools, whether software or hardware, that you find you or your techs tend to use a lot when resolving or just finding information for clients?
That's a great question, and I wish that I could answer it for you nowadays. They don't let me touch things anymore.
Okay. No, that's fair.
They're like, Nancy, you break things more. No. No, but so far, a lot of the tools that we're using are directly from the RMM. Like I was saying, my husband Angel has worked a lot with trying to automate any kind of fixes using the RMM. And so that's essentially what they're using for the majority of the time. But I know things like Malwarebytes was stuff that we did use at one point in time. And I wish I remembered more, but I don't.
No, that's totally okay. And maybe we'll go more to this part. As far as right now, well, let me back it up a little bit. So yeah, right now, as you're searching for new clients, how do you find new business clients right now? Are you finding word of mouth being better? Are you in a BNI group? What's really been successful for your business right now? And then with that, what has worked in the past that you can technically still carry on now? Because I know that the pandemic has shifted a lot of things and made us kind of do things a little bit differently. But for those just looking to, how do you find new business clients, since now we're mostly getting small business clients, what has really worked for you either recently or maybe even previously as well?
So that's a great question, and I love this question. And by the way, one of the tools that we were using for those that are in the middle of Office 365 migrations, BitTitan is awesome. So yes, make sure you guys use that tool. Beyond that, when we started off, it was very heavy on the referrals. So talking to our clients and letting them know, hey, we are trying to grow our business. And so we would appreciate any kind of referrals, and starting a referral program that helped them as well as helped us. And then we started to really kind of hone in on our marketing. And so when we started to do that, it was literally where are our ideal clients and where do they hang out? And so we started to do a lot of networking with that. And then through the pandemic, that's kind of when I realized I need to reach them in a different way. And so I started to put together videos that I posted on Facebook and LinkedIn, and as well as on like some of the groups that I'm in and things like that, where it was just educational. And so answering questions that people would normally have, or talking about problems that they normally have within their business and how we would solve them in a way, and that kind of thing. And then from there, I decided need another way and need another medium to reach them. And so I started a podcast that addresses some of the similar questions and bringing in guests and things like that. So all of that has helped to kind of, not with the lead generation, but more so gaining people's trust. And so then the sale becomes a lot easier because people can relate and they feel like they trust us, and they feel like we are at a point where we can help them with the problems that they're identifying as they're listening to what we're saying. And so all of that has helped tremendously with our sales. And then as far as lead generation, because I like to separate all these things, they're all different. Your marketing is different than your sales, and
Right.
they each have to have separate strategies. And so once the marketing funnel is working, and that's your overarching marketing is out there and people are recognizing your brand and who you are and so on and so forth, then you move on to the sales portion of it and the lead generation. So that's one thing that we have started to do, where we are using our website for lead generation, and we're also well, I haven't fully implemented all of these, which is the tricky part here. But we are hiring people so that we can do some cold calling. I know people don't like it, but it's a effective way to go about it. And we are very targeted when it comes to that as well. So that's some of what has been working for us up to date.
So I got plenty of questions for you on just what you said, mentioned as well, that hopefully the audience will find value in. The first one is, you mentioned that you've, especially during the pandemic, you've really stepped into video marketing. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, there is that that step to try and break through, like, oh, I got to get myself a camera and whatever the case may be. Once someone has kind of gone through that and say, okay, I need to get into video marketing, people need to see my face, what are the tools that you're using to record and kind of edit or just post onto your social media feeds? Are you just using your iPhone? Are you using a webcam? Are you using maybe Microsoft Teams or Stream to kind of to record these? Are you using any tools to edit these? Like, what have you found is kind of like a good mix to not only make a great video that you've put out, but that has been easy for you to do as well?
Good questions. So I did start this all on my own, and so I don't know how to video edit, so I had to learn that. But so I use Camtasia for the editing. I can also do the recording there, but I tend to be a little bit more fluid when it comes to the recording. So I used anything from my iPhone or the webcam on my laptop, or I do have a webcam in my office that is a lot better than the one on my laptop. And so I tend to use that and use Camtasia in order to edit and sometimes record. If it's an interview, then I actually do the interview through Teams and then use that video to then, I guess, edit it in Camtasia. Gotcha. And then I mean, I did go out and get like the lights and the cameras and the microphone and all of that stuff as well. So that was kind of fun shopping for those.
Gotcha. Now, are you using like a stand ring light? Is it something that's clipping on your monitor, or what did you find works best for you?
Yeah, I got a stand ring light, and I have one at home and at my office. And then for the mic, it's Audio Technica that I got. So that was one of the best. So
yep, yeah, those are one of the probably the one used by most podcasters. I mean, you could throw this thing across the wall and to the ground, and it's still gonna last. I have the 2100X, I think it was, with the Type USB-C. I had the one prior to that one. I mean, they just work. And so they definitely are good. I just posted the link for Camtasia in the show in the YouTube comments. We'll make sure we have those in the show notes as well. And then so we talked about video marketing and kind of what was used for that. And then as far as going from the marketing into the sales side, what tools are you using to kind of track and monitor those leads? Are you using a separate system? Are you keeping everything in Kaseya? How have you been managing those prospects and kind of, you know, going through your funnel to make them into an actual customer?
So right now we are using Kaseya to track all of that. And I'm actually going to be moving that over to HubSpot. And so it's just going to be a lot easier in order to do that. And sorry, getting sorry,
No worries.
all these boops. Yeah. Anyway, so I yeah, HubSpot is going to be the next tool that we use in order to keep track of it just a lot better, because we need more automation when it comes to the sales aspect of it. So
Gotcha.
it's all about automation nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the favorite term in so many years. It's like standardization and automation.
And
Like if you
automation,
can
yeah.
automate it, I think it's associated where you're removing a lot of error for
Yes.
where manual processes are going into place, right? And like you mentioned, yeah. So we actually moved to HubSpot probably about 3 months ago or so from a tool that we were using prior that just didn't meet our spec. And so we've switched to HubSpot and PandaDoc. We've kind of migrated everything from there. We've actually updated all of our forms from the default WordPress forms that are on our website to HubSpot forms. And that not only gave us much better tracking and ability to see the journey of that customer or prospect, it also eliminated a lot of the spam that was getting submitted to our sites as well. So definitely a great platform. For those that are looking into HubSpot, there is a growth suite. I think it's like something like $50 a month. Now, granted, the only, I wouldn't say issue, but gap between a lot of the, I wouldn't say limitation or what they give you in growth suite, which is kind of their starter pack, to professional is a big jump in price wise. However, in that growth suite, hopefully you are, maintaining and growing with it so that you can make that jump. But for those that are looking for a really good core of tools, how to get everything kind of integrated and automated, I can tell you that, it just works so much better. And oftentimes it's a cheaper per seat license for your sales and your marketing people that are looking into it versus giving them access to your PSA that may not need access to all of the information that's inside of there. And oftentimes you can get the two to integrate with each other. So just something from our experience from there as well.
And HubSpot also offers, I believe they call it a grant or a scholarship of some sort for startups. So that's also something to make sure that you apply for, because it helps tremendously.
Very cool. As far as all of these items that we've talked about, has there been anything that has not worked or that you've heavily invested in that, was a more, I wouldn't say a mistake, but more of a lesson learned in your marketing or in your sales efforts, whether that's, doing cold calling with different people, you not being in the front of sales and marketing and kind of letting someone else take care of it? Has there been anything similar to that? Any that just did not work for the business?
Another great question. So when we first started to look at sales and marketing, I was terrified of doing it. And the reason why I was terrified is because I have social anxiety. And so it was like a very personal challenge that for me, it was like, oh my God, I can't do it. And so I wanted to hire somebody else to do it. And we did. That ended up not working out. And so that's kind of when I realized, okay, I have to face my personal challenge in order to help grow my business. And I sought help for that and realized not only is it better all around for me personally as a person, human being, but also for my business. And I've actually ended up truly loving it. And it's all about talking to people. And no one else can sell your business as best as you, because people are going to relate to you, and then your business is an extension of you. So that's one thing that I definitely learned. And then beyond that, we did try hiring a outsourced marketing company for lead generation, the cold calling, email marketing, that kind of thing. And it didn't work out. And I think that the reason why was because they wanted to pigeonhole us into a, well, everybody sells in this way, and so because everybody sells in this way, this is our process. And I get that, and it may work for other people, but I wanted things to be done in a very specific way, and so it didn't work out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's why for me now it's a matter of having it in-house so that I can have control of that process from start to finish.
Gotcha. As far as, going through that process and understanding kind of some of those pieces in the business, what's one thing that you did that made a great improvement? And I'm going to put a little spin on that. Is there anything that, as far as like joining any community groups or forums, such as like, you and I are part of the Channel Futures, Channel Partners community because of the MSP 501. There's CompTIA, there's ASCII, there's a lot of these. Has something like that helped the business grow? Or is there something that you feel, although those are important, something else you did that really made a great improvement to your business to where it is today and maybe even growing even more?
So one thing that I have learned through this entire journey is that you need a community. You absolutely need a community. And so for me, it is industry community, because talking to peers definitely helps get perspectives from different areas and things like that. It saves you so much time when somebody else has already been through this mistake or has already done something very similar. And I'm the type of person that I'm going to take advice and I'm going to tear it apart, and then I'm going to take what I want and leave what I don't. So that always helps. We've done True Methods, which is we did that at the very beginning. And that helped tremendously move us forward with some of the ideas and thoughts that Gary Pica had. And then we left to, again, I'm the type of person that I'm going to take what I want, leave what I don't. And then beyond that, I joined well, Channel Futures, Channel Partners. We're part of the MSP 501 group, which has been great as well. Talking to some of the more experienced MSP owners, legends, ultimately speaking, has been just phenomenal because of what they offer and the wisdom behind what they tell you. And so that has been great. Beyond that, one of the things that I think has worked the most has been hiring an individual coach. So I hired an executive coach about a year and a half ago. And so that I think was game changer, just because it focused on what I wanted out of the business and then how I was going to drive those goals. And so it was everything from personal challenges to business challenges. And that for me has been the biggest game changer.
Now, just a quick question on that. Did the business coach that you went with, was this someone that was a industry focused, or was this more of a business professional and that helped drive both, as you mentioned, personal and the business as a whole?
Yes. So it was out of the industry, and I wanted someone out of the industry for that reason, because I didn't want to have someone that was going to give me industry advice, because I have somewhere else to go for that.
Yeah.
And so I specifically wanted someone outside of the industry, because I also wanted them to think about my business in the sense of what a customer would think about my business.
Mm.
So that was the other part of it. And then the other aspect that I would say people absolutely need in part of your community is mentors. That's another game changer for me, has been having mentors to call whenever I'm running into a problem, or when something new is coming up, so that I can get basically like, hey, this is what's going on. What would you do? Or have you been through that before? That kind of thing. And so that all of these pieces together has been a game changer for me.
Very good. One thing before we go to a quick break and round out the show here, we talked about what was one of the great improvements that you had that was for your business and for yourself. Could you mention maybe one of the biggest, I don't like to say mistakes. What is the biggest life learning events? There's a phrase I like to use, I forgot what it's called, but there's a phrase I like to use other than mistakes. But can you say, like, what is one of your biggest mistakes that you have done, or that you would love to have changed now, kind of going through it all and looking back?
So I would say hiring way too early. That's one thing that we did up front. We were onboarding new clients and we were feeling the just the all the noise, as I think Gary Pica says it says it that way, all the noise, and feeling like we needed to catch up with the work. So in order to catch up with the work, we needed to hire more people. And so we would hire more people, but we weren't looking at our actual utilization. And feeling busy is different than actually being busy.
Hmm.
And so we hired more people, and then the onboardings slowed down, projects slowed down, and the day-to-day issues slowed down, and all of a sudden we were left with technicians that weren't doing anything. And so that was one of the biggest mistakes, life lessons learned, that I would say we did at the very beginning. And ever since then, we've cut down the team. I'm in the mindset of growing lean and mean, I guess, is definitely something that I started to think about in a completely different way. And so making sure that we were, once we started to standardize and automate a lot of stuff, that also cut down on a lot of work and or physical labor. And so then it became incredibly important to start looking at our utilization, and not just for when to hire, because that is one of the reasons why you want to do that, but it also let us see how our employees actually doing. And so if our utilization rate is going up to 80% consistently, then we want to hire someone at that point, because our techs are going crazy and we don't want that. So it's things like that we learned, but there was some great things that came out of it, which is making sure that utilization percentage is something that we look at consistently.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. I think hiring is kind of the quasi you should, and I think that's a big question for a lot of people, especially solo business owners. Like, do I need to hire? Should I hire? Who should be my first hire? Depending on where you're at, it could be a big it's character building is what I meant to say. So it's not bad days, there's character building days, or if it's a big mistake, it's a lesson learned, like you mentioned. So yeah, hiring has always been kind of the quasi am I ready? And like you said, hiring too fast, it can be a problem as well, because all the resources, monetary time. One thing I will say is that, a lot of people will think that hiring is going to solve my problem. Well, it turns out like the first 3 months, you're going to spend even more time to try and get them up to speed. So there is going to be some things that are going to suffer, but in the end goal is that it will be better. Right. So,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Nancy, we're going to do a quick break. I want you to collect any final thoughts, and then I want us to get into your podcast as well there. But if you would like to support the show, go to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. This is the opportunity to support what we do here. And what's your donation? It's about $1 a show, I believe, and you'll gain access to our Facebook private group. There's about a little over 150 people in that group, but it allows you to have basically a safe zone to ask any questions, no matter where you are in your journey. Again, the reason why we started the Facebook private group was, there's a lot of Facebook groups, and Nancy can comment on here, where there's a lot of our peers that I don't necessarily agree with that will state their opinion as fact, and they will make someone feel that, why are you asking that question, and not understanding that we all were there at one point. And even if we weren't, the whole point of a community is to help. Right. And that's the ability for a lot of us to really contribute. So, we have a zero, I wouldn't say bullying policy, but essentially, you don't want to make anybody feel like they're dumb or they feel like that they shouldn't have asked. So far, it's been very good for a lot. We haven't had to ban anybody for that reason. Everyone's very respectful, and again, there are some people that have asked questions in there and they say, look, I know this is a dumb question, but I just want to ask. And, we always are happy to help no matter what that question is. So if that's something of interest to you, feel free to go over to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. And I do want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Scott Clark. And I also want to thank those that continuously support us as well. All right. So, as we kind of rounded out, Nancy, you did mention your podcast. And, I know you had launched that, I believe it was this year, if I remember correctly, or was it late last year?
Late last year.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that podcast? It sounds like it's geared more to small businesses to help with, as you mentioned, as your branding and such. And kind of why don't you go into more on, what made you think about starting a podcast, and really just more for those that want to subscribe to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so it's called Business Plus Tech Equals Success, and the reason why for the name is I truly do believe that businesses have to think about tech first, and so that's one of the very first things that I say in the podcast is that the IT closet is usually forgotten, and it shouldn't be that way. And so what was the other question?
Oh, basically that, what made you start from there, and then kind of what is the basis about the podcast and such.
Yes. And so the basis of the podcast is talking to other business owners in other industries that go through similar things, or clients that have come on and talked about the problems that they had and how we've solved them and things like that. So it's truly trying to get into the meat of business and how technology and being proactive about your technology is going to help their businesses move forward. So that's it in a nutshell.
Very cool. And you've had plenty of different industry guests on your show as well to kind of identify, what their problems are and things of that nature. So highly encourage you all to subscribe, because it really opens your mind on some of the things that we could be attacking for our clients in our local market and area, and just all around good information, and, I've heard Nancy speak on plenty of times and hearing her on the podcast as well. She has a lot of bountiful information as well. All right. So I think with that, Nancy, is there any last words that you may want to leave to the audience on, maybe a great tip, something that has resonated with you over the years running your business, before we kind of close out the show?
That you can make me think really hard right before the end.
Home stretch.
Home stretch. Yeah. Well, I love the fact that you were stating that there's all these business gurus that will tell you, grow your business, you have to do this, do that, or whatever nonsense it is. And I truly believe that there is room for everybody in this market. And so if you are true to yourself, and you are using that within your branding, which I feel is the soul of your company, then you will find clients that will be the right clients for you, as long as you stick to you, because business is different for everybody, and it is an extension of ourselves, and what worked for somebody else isn't going to work for you or your lifestyle, because they're not living your life.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I think for all of us here, that's the point of the community. That's the point of our in-person show. That's the point of the podcast is, we are here for everyone in between. Right. And I think it's just no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're in break fix, or MSP, or if you don't like to consider yourself an MSP, managed service provider, an IT business owner. There's so many terms. It's just semantics. We're all in it for together. We all have great opportunities to share with each other. And, exactly like what Nancy said, is to make sure that, reach out to someone that that you relate to, that you have the ability to learn from. I think, for example, for me and Nancy, Juan Fernandez is a mutual friend of ours that we've been talking many, many times over the past couple of weeks. And he's opened my eyes on a lot of stuff, and he's been very successful, being in the industry over 20 years. So I'm hoping to have him on the show soon as well. But Nancy, really appreciate you coming out on a Friday afternoon. If anyone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So LinkedIn would be awesome. Nancy Sabino on LinkedIn. I'm a millennial, so I hang out on Instagram. And you can find me at Nancy Sabino SET on that. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much, you can Google me and find me. I'm
Very
not hiding.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. We appreciate everyone coming to the show here. Come join us live. It's actually not going to be Fridays anymore at noon Eastern. We're actually moving to Tuesdays in about 2 weeks. So we will be moving to Tuesday mornings. I don't have the exact times as of yet. I believe it's going to be 11 Eastern, but we're still ironing out that piece / I forgot the time. So I will get that for us next week. But join us Tuesdays. But next week will be our last Friday show on the 11th. I personally will not be here, but Jeff will be hosting the show then. If you want to watch live and hang out over at the chat room, go over to youtube.com/MSP Unplugged, subscribe and hit the notification button so you'll never miss an episode. Also, use your favorite podcasting app if you'd like to take us wherever you go. Again, saying this from the last couple of weeks, we've heard from a lot of the community that did not know we were still running this as a podcast. They thought it was just a YouTube show since leaving when we rebranded Computer Repair Podcast. It is a different feed, so you will have to resubscribe. So search for MSP Unplugged, subscribe in your favorite podcatcher. We are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, so you can always talk to your Echo and ask to listen to us. And with that, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.